Douglas Murray was recently interviewed on Jordan Peterson's show where he talked about what exactly happened on October 7th. Believe it or not, there are still people today who don't know. That is right.
There's questions everyone has. How did the Israeli security forces miss this? How could something like this happen? What did happen? Who was responsible? So let's start by laying that out. What happened on October 7th?
What happened was that about 4,000 or more terrorists invaded Israel in the early morning. The Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other jihadist groups in Gaza started firing hundreds and hundreds of rockets at about 6:30 in the morning, almost exactly 6:30 in the morning. So air raid sirens went off across the country. But then something, and sadly that's kind of usual in Israel. It's quite common to have air raid sirens, particularly in the south, has been for 20 years. What became clear was very unusual was that across multiple parts of the Gaza-Israel border, thousands of terrorists broke in. They broke down the fences, they went to the checkpoints where Gazan workers would come through each day and where aid lorries and indeed commerce occurred. They went to those crossings as well, attacked the soldiers, overwhelmed them in quite a lot of places. It was a religious holiday. It's the holiday of Simchat Torah, and so a lot of people were at home with their families. It was 50 years to the day since the Yom Kippur War, when Israel's Arab neighbors invaded in a surprise attack as well. So you might say, well, how come it's a surprise? That was one of the things, as soon as I got to Israel straight after the 7th, one of the things I was trying to find out was what the hell went wrong. Because the Israelis have always had, certainly since 1973, a sort of invulnerability. It's not true, of course, but they were seen to be invulnerable by many of their neighbors. Certainly
impossible to catch by surprise.
Impossible to catch by surprise. It's what I call the Fowlerization of Israel, the sort of idea that it's the eyes in the sky everywhere, nothing that can be done that could surprise them. And that wasn't the case. Massive amounts of the security apparatus of Israel failed. Hamas were also very, very clever. They'd done a lot of reconnaissance, using, sadly, Gazan workers in Israel to do the reconnaissance, it has to be said, in the months and years ahead of the 7th. They knew how to take down things like communications. They knew how to take down the security apparatus at the border. And by the time that hundreds and then thousands of people were flooding into Israel, invading, they were going community by community through the south, village by village. They're called kibbutz. They're small communities of sometimes a few hundred, sometimes 1,000 people. And these were peaceful communities, farming communities. And they started to go house by house through these communities, massacring the people inside, kidnapping as well. They came across, of course, because they managed to do the invasion not just by land, but by sea and also by air in hang gliders. They managed to come into the dance party, the Nova Party, where thousands of young people were dancing in the early morning. And there's a debate about whether or not the terrorists knew that they were going to get this really easy pickings of unarmed young people dancing in the morning. But whether it was luck or design, they managed to get to the party and came in on military jeeps and trucks and motorcycles and started massacring their way through the young people in the early hours of the morning. There were a lot of questions I asked about what went wrong on the Israeli side. And there's a lot to find out about, and some of the answers I think I've come to. But although many people in their homes who I spoke to in the hospitals and in the communities in the aftermath of the 7th said the same thing to me. The thing they said was that they'd told their children as they were hiding in the bomb shelters, as their homes were on fire and they could hear people at the door trying to break in. They said that they'd told their children, don't worry, the army will be here in moments. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. But it didn't fail entirely. There were some army in the area who put up a very good fight. And some of the army managed to get down fast. Some elite units managed to get to the south swiftly, had very, very intense firefights. But one of the other things that happened was that there were a lot of people who I described, Arab, Druze, Jews, Israelis, who were what I call self-starters, just people who realized that everything was going wrong. The country had been invaded. It was war. And who, through some extraordinary mettle or insight or whatever, sometimes just information, somebody who happened to know somebody in one of the communities in the South who was saying, we're on fire, would just hurtle to the scene and save lives. And that's why I say that the morning of the 7th was a story of catastrophic evil from Hamas and Islamic Jihad, and indeed the Gazan civilians who came in to join in the raping and the stealing and the kidnapping. By the end of the day, 1,200 Israelis were dead, many, many more injured, and 250 taken hostage into Gaza. By proportion of population, if people were to extrapolate that out to America, it would be about 44,000 Americans killed in one day.
Well, the hostage situation is also...
And 10,000 Americans taken hostage.
Right.
That's by proportion of population, if you extrapolate it out. It would be 10,000 Americans being dragged out of their homes and taken into enemy territory by terrorists. But the story was, first of all, of the evils that Hamas committed that day. Secondly, and the suffering that they imposed. Secondly, of course, the failure of much of the security apparatus in Israel, from which lessons will have to be learned, and not just by Israel, but by her allies. But thirdly, as I say, it's also the story of extraordinary people rising to this terrible moment and doing unbelievably heroic things. I tell a lot of the stories of people, for instance, there's somebody who's become a friend called Nimrod who hurtled south in his car. He had been in the army, was called back to base by his commander, but by that point Nimrod was driving south, and he managed to pick up a gun on the way, a single revolver with, I think, 8 rounds of ammunition. Went through every military checkpoint and just, he said he didn't see a live Israeli till the early afternoon. But when he did, he fought and killed many terrorists. There are other people, like there was a young man at the party I mentioned in the book, whose girlfriend I met, who had realized the situation, managed to get a car out of the party. The terrorists were massacring everyone as they came out by car. So they were shooting the cars, so then there was a log jam. But this young man managed to find a way out on another route. And he took 4 or 5 young people in the car, drove them 30 minutes, dropped them off, came back, took another car full of young people, drove again, took them back. Every time they said to him, don't go back again, it's hell, it's death. But he kept doing it. And then the last time he did it, he was killed. But there are lots of terrible stories from the day that I recount. But as I say, it also seems to me to be important to credit the people who survived and who didn't, who showed unbelievable heroism.
Douglas, at the end of the video, basically, I think summed this whole thing up, which is the heroism that was displayed by people my age and younger in their early 20s that weren't in the army, but had no other choice but to survive and to try and save as many lives as possible. There are hundreds of stories like this. There are so many stories. It's actually insane when you think about the amount of people that have these gut-wrenching stories. I don't even want to call it an interview. I had a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to speak to Roy Shalev at Venice Beach in California on a basketball court. He comes from the basketball world like I do. And we played basketball and shot together for about an hour, and we mic'd each other up, turned on the camera, and we recorded the entire conversation. Look, I've heard a lot of stories, and Roy's story has stuck with me extra hard. I mean, the morning, the day following, the week following, I mean, the stuff that kid has gone through is, there are no words. There are no words. I suggest that you take a look at it. It's on my profile. You have to scroll all the way down back to, I believe, August 2024. There's a thumbnail of Roy And he took a picture of himself when he was on the ground under a car. He's covered in blood. I mean, his story, you have to listen to that. We're at a basketball court in Venice Beach in California. And so, and what he had to do, and what all the others had to do. And at the same time, I really do appreciate and respect Douglas for talking about the security failure internally in Israel, because it is a real thing. To not talk about that would be naive. I think it only adds authority to someone like Douglas, who clearly after 5 or 10 seconds, you can tell has a pro-Israel stance, is still willing to say what the failure or failures were on Israel's behalf. I just think that adds authority to somebody's point. I think it gives them credibility, and it gives them a little bit more of a signature to be able to sign off and talk about this. And on top of all of that, after we saw him speak to Dave Smith on Joe Rogan, and after everything, I mean, I've seen Douglas Murray. He's been in Israel. He's come to Israel. He's been in Gaza. He's been to Khan Yunis. He's seen the tunnels. He's spoken to the IDF. He's interviewed people. He's come here many times. He needs the actual real life information, experience, substance. He has to see it. He has to live it. He has to feel it. He has to ask about it. He has to challenge questions. That is what true journalists do. Honest journalism. People with integrity. People who want to tell you the real story. Because it's very easy to make one up. And the story that he just told is exactly what happened on Saturday morning, October 7th, 2023 in southern Israel. And it's not up for debate. Thank you so much for all your support.
If you want to continue the conversation, you can support my work for free. Discord does not cost a thing. It is the best way to connect with me and others who are seeking the truth. The link is in the description. But if you want to take it one step further, my Patreon gives you access to the Israel you don't see, uncovering the untold stories of what mainstream media does not show you. The link is in the description, and it helps me to continue this work. Or if you're just looking to help this thing go, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee is a really easy way to support me. This channel, this work does not happen without all of you. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you next time.